Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to talk about the code that allows the player to direct a player character to, in turn, order a companion to change their weapon. So, as you can see, I've started a new game. We have the various buttons that we've already looked at. Let's say that I want to order this companion that I have here to change their weapon. You might think that that would be in the given order passage, but in fact, it's not. We have charge, cover me, fallback, regroup. And then there's just a little note that says to order a companion to change weapons, go to companion inventory. The reason I've got sort of a separate passage for that is because if I had these four, it's usually five, but if I had these buttons as well as what we're about to see on the next passage, I thought that it would be really, really crowded and a little bit difficult to follow. I think you can sort of see why. And remember, of course, also that there can sometimes be two companions. So here we have the companion inventory passage. We've seen everything that's sort of on the left-hand side of the screen. The picture of the companion, the text saying it's companion 1, the listing of what's in their inventory, the return button. But this is new, these buttons. Now, I'm aware that this layout isn't very good. I mean, we can see that this really should be on one line and it's sort of squished. It's narrowed it into two, or narrowed it so that it goes across two text lines in order to fit these really wide buttons in. I think these buttons ought to be icons rather than text, pictures rather than text. So I'm probably going to update that, but I just did a sort of very basic thing to get it working. So we can see that they've got a machine gun and a frag grenade. Let's say, and I can order them to equip a machine gun to their main hand. I can't order them to equip the machine gun to their offhand because it's a two-handed weapon and you can't have a two-handed weapon in your offhand. And then there's a frag grenade. I can order them to equip it to their main hand or their offhand. So let's say I want them to equip the frag grenade to their main hand. I would press that button. This is an order that is automatically obeyed, so we shouldn't do the usual thing of rolling to see whether it gets obeyed or not. It should just get a message that says, yep, companion 1 will change weapons. And when it's the companions go, they should indeed change their weapon. So I've got two, what's the word? I've got two movements, so I'll just advance and retreat. And so they should change their weapon. Let's scroll down and see if it did it. Yep, companion 1 swaps their pistol for their frag grenade. And having swapped their pistol for their frag grenade, they should now not be choosing to shoot or pistol whip, because those are the attacks that are specific to the pistol. They should be choosing an attack that's specific to the frag grenade. And indeed, they do. They choose to throw it. So they're doing what they should be doing. So as usual, I'm going to show you the code in the rest of the video. Now, I'm going to split this up into at least two parts because I did try doing it in one hit and it got a bit long. So I'm probably just going to talk about the code for giving the order and then talk about the code for obeying the order in the next video, and then also talk about the changes that I want to make and the limitations that I see with it. So as we saw, it's not in order. There aren't any new variables. There is an extension to an existing variable. So let's look at that first. It's com. So I'll just zoom in. $com, short for companion. is an array which gives quite a lot of different details about the companions. We had already seen in previous videos up to slot 5, but we've added another couple. Why have we added another couple? Well, in slot 5, we can record which order they've been given, and in this case we'll record a value of 6 because there's 5 existing orders, and you know, obviously the next one is 6. But that's not all they need to obey that order, because they need to know, well, which weapon am I drawing, which slot in my inventory am I taking it from, and am I to take it into my main hand or my offhand. So I've decided to use $com Z6 for which slot in the inventory are they to draw, and com Z7 for which hand to use. 1 will indicate their main hand and 0 will indicate their offhand. There is another variable that I want to talk about that you might think would be extended but isn't. And that is order name. Order name has the names of all of the well, it had the names of all of the orders that a player character could issue. But I didn't add equip. And the reason I didn't add equip is because the order name array, as this explanation down here says, the order name array is used in the order passage where we show the companion's picture and then 5 buttons for the different orders you can give them. And that's not where we order them to equip a new weapon. We do that in its own page. So therefore there was no point adding it to this array. So the only thing we've extended is the com array. All right. So let's look in PC inventory, which is where we actually do issue that order. Where is it? No, not PC inventory. Sorry, companion inventory, of course. PC inventory is the player character's inventory. I've made a few layout changes here, which I'm not going to talk about too much because they didn't really involve any new techniques. It was just sort of fiddling around to make things line up and sort of look as good as possible. So I'm going to sort of skip past that. I'll just talk about the buttons that allow you to give these orders, which are there in the middle of those 3 lines and in the middle of those 3 lines. Now, you'll notice they're both wrapped within ifs. In other words, they're only displayed some of the time. And the reason for that is because you can't always equip every single weapon into your main hand. You can't always equip every single weapon into your offhand. And the rules for that are exactly the same as they are in PC inventory, because the rules for companions are exactly the same as for player characters. So this code that we're about to see here is more or less identical to the ones in PC inventory. The only real difference is that in PC inventory we use 0 because we're always dealing with character 0, and in this one we use X because we have a for loop which goes through all the different companions that might be there. But I will go through this code again. If offhand X is equal to 0 or WEA_OVR inventory XZ3 is equal to 1, then you can order the companion to equip this particular weapon that we're looking at to your main hand. Well, we've already seen that X on this particular page means which character we're talking about, which companion. Z means which slot in the inventory are we talking about. And that's actually sort of a bad choice, and we'll talk. I probably should have done it the other way around, but we'll talk about that when we get to this line. So, all right. So, what does this mean? If offhand X equals 0, or this slightly longer bit of code. Well, if offhand X equals 0, just means if the character isn't carrying a weapon in their offhand. So that's fairly straightforward. This one is a little bit more complicated because it has a value within a value. So let's talk about that. We have this inventory XZ. Well, we've already talked about X is the companion. X is which companion we're talking about. Z is which inventory slot we're talking about. Inventory is an array which deals with inventory, what each character is carrying. So inventory XZ is just this particular weapon. That's really what it is. It's the weapon that we're looking at the time. So it's WEA underscore OVR, this particular weapon 3. And what's in that? Well, in that particular slot of the WEA underscore OVR array, we store handedness. It has a value of 1 if this particular weapon is one-handed, and a value of 2 if this particular weapon is two-handed. So all this means is if the character is not holding a weapon in their offhand, they can equip a one-handed or a two-handed weapon. And if the weapon that we're talking about is one-handed, they can equip that weapon to their main hand, regardless of what they're carrying in their offhand. And that makes sense. If you're holding a machete in your offhand, you can draw a pistol without having to put down the machete. And if you're holding nothing in your offhand, you can draw a pistol, but you can also draw a machine gun or another weapon that requires two hands. Let's look at this if. Now you notice that this is not an or, it's an and. Two things have to be true to be able to equip a given weapon into your offhand. WEA underscore OVR inventory XZ 3 has to equal 1. Well, we've already talked about this code. This is identical to this one. It means if we're talking about a one-handed weapon. So in other words, if it's a two-handed weapon, doesn't matter what else is the case, you can't equip a two-handed weapon into your offhand. You are considered to be holding it in your main hand and sort of helping with the offhand, just as the way that I've coded it. So it has to be a one-handed weapon, and WEA underscore OVR weapon X3 has to equal 1. So what does that mean? Well, so again, this has got a value within a value. It's got weapon X. That is the weapon that character X is carrying in their main hand. So, and we've already said that slot something 3 in WEA underscore OVR, the weapon overview array, that is the handedness of a given weapon. So in other words, the weapon in your main hand has to be a one-handed weapon. If the weapon in your main hand is a two-handed weapon, you can't equip this weapon into your offhand, regardless of anything else. Because if you've got a machine gun, you're using both hands to hold it. You can't use your offhand to draw a machete and expect to still hold the machine gun, right? So that won't work. That's not an option that you have. And as I said before, these rules are identical for the player character. So those are the conditions under which we print these buttons. What do the buttons say? Well, the button has the text order companion to equip to main hand. It takes you to order 2, which is where we deal with whether orders are obeyed or not and the consequences if they are. And then we have these temporary variables that are given particular values. We set Z equal to X, Y equal to 6, W equal to Z, and V equals to 1. Now, you can already see there's a little bit of inelegance here. Why are we setting Z equal to X and W equal to Z? Shouldn't we set Z equal to Z? Well, yeah, we should. That would sort of make a lot more sense. The trouble is that Z on order 2, Z means which companion is being given the order. And unfortunately on this one, we're using X for which companion we're talking about. So once I noticed that, what I could have done was swap X and Z. In other words, I turn this loop into one that has 3 references to X, and I turn this one into a loop that has 3 references to Z. Then I would have had to have changed every reference to X to Z and every reference to Z to X, and I was afraid that in doing that I would make a mistake. So I thought it was a lesser evil to just leave this slightly inelegant setup here. So what does Z, Y, W, and V mean? Well, we can see it on order too. Z is which companion, Y is which order, W is which inventory slot, and V is into which hand. 1 for the main hand, 0 for the offhand. So we set, for this button, we set Z equals X, i.e. which companion it is X. Y equals 6. Which order is this? It's order number 6, the equip order. W equals Z. Which inventory slot is it? It's the inventory slot we're currently looking at based on this for loop. And V is 1. Which hand is it? We're talking about the main hand because this button is ordering to equip to main hand. In the other one, the equip to offhand, we have exactly the same stuff. Set Z equals X, set Y equals 6, set W equals Z, except we set V equal to 0 because in this case, this button indicates equip to your offhand. And normally what would happen now is we would roll, this is what happens for most orders, and that's the code that's down there, but this order is automatically obeyed. So here's what happens on this page. We set given order equal to 1. Given order is a flag as to whether the player character has given an order this turn, because giving an order doesn't use up one of your 2 actions, but you can only do it once a turn. Then we have a branching based on Y. Y is which order. We want the case where Y equals 6. This order is automatically obeyed. So we set, I think I moved something then. We set com Z5 to 6. That's the order. That's which order. We set com Z6 to W. That's which inventory slot. We set com Z7 to V. That's which hand. And then we just give a message that says companion Z will change weapons. So companion 2 will change weapons because it's sort of automatically a success. This else here is for orders which can be obeyed or not obeyed, so we don't need to worry about that. We come down here, we put a couple of line breaks in. We set print underscore dist equal to 1 because we want to print the battlefield once we get out of this page. We increase actions by 1. $actions is how many actions the player character has left. And the reason we're doing that is because when we press this button to continue and go to next action, that's going to reduce actions by 1. So we don't really want to increase it. We're just offsetting the reduction that's going to happen over here. We want to keep the actions the same. And that is how that's the code for the player character to give an order, or for the player to tell the player character to give an order to equip a weapon. Obviously, I've done the code for the companion actually changing the weapon because we saw that in the demonstration. But that made the video a bit long in an earlier draft of this video. So I think I'm going to do that next time. I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.